hands raised, badge in his pocket, and fear in his eyes. Special Agent Carter had just left the gym when two officers stormed in yelling, "Get on the ground!" They thought he was just another black man causing trouble. 7 minutes later, their jaws hit the floor. Special Agent Marcus Carter was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, the son of a schoolteacher and a retired Army veteran. From a young age, Marcus had a strong sense of right and wrong. He didn't just want to see justice done, he wanted to be part of the system that delivered it. That passion led him to the FBI. After graduating top of his class in criminal justice and completing his federal training, he quickly earned a reputation for being sharp, disciplined, and calm under pressure. But Marcus wasn't loud about his success. He was humble, observant, and kept a low profile. He knew the badge didn't make him immune to the world's judgment. Even with years in law enforcement, he never forgot what it felt like to be followed in stores or to see women clutch their purses when he walked by in plain clothes. He had worn the suit and tie, worked undercover, arrested dangerous criminals, and even briefed top-level federal officials. But off-duty, he was still just a black man in America, and that came with its own set of dangers. That day, Marcus was simply trying to decompress. No meetings, no surveillance, no phone calls. Just a quick solo workout at a small neighborhood gym on his day off. He wore a faded hoodie, sweatpants, and sneakers. Nothing flashy, nothing formal. He had left his FBI jacket in the car, and his badge was tucked deep in his gym bag next to his phone and car keys. As he wiped down the bench press and grabbed his water bottle, he felt normal, relaxed even. But in a matter of seconds, everything would change. The gym doors would burst open, and two police officers would rush in, guns drawn, shouting commands. And despite everything he had achieved, none of it would matter in that moment. The gym wasn't crowded, just a few people scattered between machines and free weights. The music playing overhead came to a stop when the doors burst open. Two white officers stepped in, hands on their weapons, eyes scanning like they were hunting someone. One pointed straight at Marcus. "You step away from the bag. Hands where we can see them." Marcus froze. He'd heard the tone before. Not the professional kind, the panicked kind. The kind that comes from adrenaline and assumptions. He raised his hands slowly, fingers spread. "What's going on, officers?" he asked, his voice even, calm. "We got a call about a disturbance. Black male, gray hoodie, possibly armed," one of them barked. "That you?" He glanced down. Gray hoodie, gym shorts, a water bottle still in his hand. "I just finished working out," he said. "You can ask anyone here." "We're asking you. Got ID?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Yes. It's in my gym bag. I'm going to reach for it." No sudden moves. Their hands inched closer to their holsters. One was already unclipping his. The other took a step forward, eyes narrowed. He could feel the whole gym watching now. Phones were starting to come out. A trainer in the corner looked frozen in place. A woman behind the front desk whispered something, possibly calling the manager, or recording. Marcus kept his voice steady. "Look, I'm a federal agent. FBI. My badge is in the side pocket of my bag." One of the officers snorted. "Yeah, sure it is. You people all got stories." "You people." That one line cut deeper than the guns ever could. But Marcus let it go, for now. His training told him not to escalate, even when every part of him wanted to say more. He slowly turned his body slightly toward the bench where his bag Saturday. "If you want, you can reach in and check yourself." Left side pocket. The officers didn't move. One kept his hand near his holster. The other radioed something in. Marcus stood still, hands still raised, heart pounding not out of guilt, but because he knew how quickly things could go wrong. He had seen it, investigated it, filed the reports after it was already too late. He had hoped his badge would protect him. But right now, it didn't even seem like they believed he had one. Step back. Step back now, one of the officers shouted, his voice louder, sharper, and full of something that sounded more like fear than authority. Marcus didn't move. His hands were still up. He wasn't a threat. He wasn't holding anything but the air between his fingers and their judgment. But it didn't matter. The second officer had already drawn his gun. It wasn't pointed directly at Marcus's chest. Not yet, but it was out, trembling slightly, and that was enough to make every muscle in Marcus's body tense. He'd been in shootouts before. Real ones. With real criminals. But nothing had ever made his throat feel this dry. Someone gasped across the room. Then came the familiar sound, a phone camera clicking on. Someone was recording. Then another. And another. It felt like the whole gym had turned into an audience, watching to see whether this would be a misunderstanding or a tragedy. "I said don't move," the officer repeated. "I'm not moving," Marcus replied calmly, louder this time. "I told you, I'm a federal agent. FBI." The officer holding the gun actually smirked. "Yeah, right," he scoffed. "And I'm the president." The other one joined in. "Every guy we arrest has a story. You don't look like no agent." Marcus tried to breathe, tried to stay calm, tried not to think about how his skin was the only story they really needed. "My badge is in that bag," he said again, nodding slightly toward it without moving. "Left side pocket. You can get it yourself. But I'm not reaching for it." "Nope. You're gonna show it to us. Hands up or we'll put you down. Last warning. Put you down." Marcus felt a heat rise up the back of his neck. Not from rage, though that was there too, but from shame. The kind that cuts through even the toughest armor. He had trained for years. Worn a wire in cartel takedowns. Walked into rooms full of armed suspects without flinching. But now, standing in a gym, surrounded by civilians, all he could feel was fear. Fear that they wouldn't listen. Fear that they would act. Fear that this would be the story played on the news tomorrow. Black man shot in gym during police response. He looked around at the faces in the gym. Some were filming. Some were staring. But most were just silent, watching, unsure, frozen by the same thing that gripped him. And then, in that thick silence, Carter said something he didn't expect himself to say. Not like this, not with his hands in the air. "I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you not to shoot me." It wasn't anger in his voice. It was heartbreak, frustration, humiliation. Because for all the training, all the respect, all the law behind his name, it still came down to begging for humanity. Just when it felt like the air might shatter, a voice cut through the tension, steady, clear, and unmistakably familiar. "Yo, Agent Carter? Everything all right?" It was Jamal, the assistant manager at the front desk. Young, smart, and always polite, Jamal had seen Carter in the gym almost every week. He had even joked once that Carter looked more like a linebacker than a Fed. But in that moment, the way he said Agent Carter wasn't casual. It was deliberate. Loud enough for everyone, including the officers, to hear. Both cops turned their heads. "What did you say?" one asked. Jamal took a slow step forward, hands raised. "I said Agent Carter. He's FBI. Comes here all the time. That's what this is about." The officer with the gun didn't lower it. Not yet. But the hesitation showed in his stance. For the first time, he wasn't sure. The other one asked, "You got any proof of that?" Carter didn't move. He looked directly at them, jaw tight. Then, for the first time since the confrontation began, his voice lost its calm edge. "Call Special Agent in Charge Martinez. Washington Field Office. Tell him you've got Marcus Carter detained at a gym in Arlington. He'll explain exactly who I am." The officers glanced at each other. Still, no gun was holstered. "Do it," Carter said firmly. "Right now." The officer without the gun stepped back, muttering into his radio. Jamal stood near Carter now, not touching him, but close enough to send a quiet message: "You're not alone." A few seconds passed. Then a voice crackled over the radio. "Confirmed. Special Agent Marcus Carter, Badge 2041-B. He's assigned to WFO Counterterrorism Division. Let him go. Now." It felt like the whole gym exhaled at once. The officer with the gun blinked, then slowly, finally, lowered his weapon. The other one took a full step back, as if he just realized how close he'd been to making a career-ending mistake. Neither of them looked Carter in the eyes. We apologize," one said. Carter didn't answer. He reached down, unzipped his gym bag, and pulled out his badge. Not for them, but for the cameras now circling from the corners of the room. It gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Gold, official, undeniable. "I told you," he said quietly. No anger. Just disappointment so sharp it felt louder than yelling. Jamal stood beside him, arms crossed. The officers mumbled something about miscommunication and left quickly, their faces pale. The room was silent except for the fading echo of their boots. One of the gym members finally said, "Damn." Another added, "What if he didn't have a badge?" And that was the question nobody had the courage to answer. Because everyone in that gym, every single person who had watched that scene unfold, knew exactly what could have happened if those 7 minutes had gone just a little differently. The shift in the officer's tone was instant, like a switch had been flipped. The aggression, the suspicion, the urgency, it all vanished, replaced by awkward politeness and forced smiles. "Sir." "Agent Carter," one of them stammered. "We, apologize for the misunderstanding." Marcus didn't say a word. He simply knelt, unzipped his gym bag fully, and placed the badge they had doubted so much right on top. Then he gathered his towel, his water bottle, and slung the bag over his shoulder like nothing had happened. But something had. Everyone in the gym could feel it. The bystanders who had been frozen now stood quietly, their phones still pointed in his direction. Some looked down, ashamed they hadn't spoken up sooner. Others just stared, eyes wide, replaying the last few minutes in their minds. Jamal followed Marcus to the front desk. "You good, man?" he asked, voice low. Marcus nodded. "Yeah." But he didn't sound fine. He sounded tired. Not physically, but deeply, emotionally drained. Like something inside him had cracked a little, again. Behind him, one of the officers made a weak attempt at small talk. "You know how these calls go sometimes. We have to respond quickly." Still, Marcus didn't answer. He kept walking. Just as he reached the exit, a woman who had been filming stepped forward. Her phone was still raised. Her voice wasn't angry. It was heartbroken. "If he wasn't FBI," she said aloud, "would he still be alive right now?" No one answered her. Because the answer hung heavy in the silence. Maybe not. The gym door closed behind Carter, and for a long moment, no one said anything. Later that night, the videos started to surface online. Different angles. Different voices. One showed the officers with their weapons partially drawn. Another caught Marcus calmly saying, "I'm a federal agent." And then the most powerful clip, his quiet, chilling words, "I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you not to shoot me." Within hours, the video had gone viral. #Agent Carter trended across platforms. News anchors replayed the footage with captions like "mistaken identity" and "FBI agent held at gunpoint by police." Civil rights activists began speaking out. Some called for an investigation. Others called it just another example of a deeper, ongoing truth. The public response was loud, raw, and divided. Some people defended the officers, saying they were just doing their job. Others saw it as proof that no level of achievement, no badge, no title can protect a black man from suspicion. But through all the noise, one truth stood out clearly. Marcus Carter's calm, restrained survival wasn't the result of the system working. It was the result of experience, training, and pure luck. And the fear that lingered in that gym didn't leave with him. It stayed with the people who watched it happen.